Hi there, everybody. I'm Sandra, and this is my little spot in the world where I can speak my truth, my whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Maybe there probably is a lot of cognitive bias in what I say. Maybe there's some interrupted memories, but as far as I understand, these are my truths about how I see the world. And my truths within me without being infected by such a complex society that we're in. In fact, the breakdown of this complex society that we're in. Change has been coming for a long time. And I thought just maybe in my life this change was happening. You know, this is going back a couple of decades ago when I started to see the real search of meaning in lives that I've crossed paths with or were in my inner circle. You started to see that maybe what we call it is restlessness. What is the meaning of my life? Where am I going? Is this really it? What's going on? I started to see that in real time in my life in so many ways that I'll share those stories with you. But this is the process of change we're in. It's the collapse of our inner life inside ourselves and our outer life outside ourselves. It couldn't be more obvious that there's some kind of quake happening going on out there, and we have to really try to understand what is real and what is not real. And this is a total crisis of meaning in our lives and how we're trying to fulfill ourselves and the questions we should ask ourselves so that maybe we could be um, a force in this world that isn't just spinning our wheels and expending energy without making any real progress by being diverted or being misunderstood, you know, or not really understanding our shadows and letting our shadows fly out there, or our neediness to fly out there, or our need to be validated for all the wrongs that have happened in our lives. Maybe moving away from that, maybe that's a clearing. There's a clearing there. My biggest pet peeve has been this whole movement of validation. Validate me that they did me wrong, and yes, this really happened to me. You know, and I want to know I'm right. Well, on one side of things, you are right. And it depends what perspective you're looking at. But if you're only looking through the perspective of validating yourself so that you can sleep well at night and feel comfortable at night and not look at your own inner shadows or where these reflections in your life are pointing to, then where is there any growth there? What's going on with you, right? Validation to me has been a really hard spot in my life. When I was going through a lot in my midlife and my earlier times, and you know, I really needed a therapist, a psychiatrist, not really a psychiatrist. I didn't want the drugs. I wanted a therapist, and I wanted them for my children too. And I looked all around, and everyone had a therapist except me. I didn't have one. And I really had no one that would validate my, you know, my whining, my whims. They'd validate, yes, I was human, and yes, I was going through something real in my life. and something that had to be looked at. And I'm thankful. I'm very thankful for those people. But they wouldn't validate my whining. And this is where I started to connect myself with the unknown. Connect myself. I used to say to my kids, I'm just going outside to talk to the wind, right? Just to talk to the wind. This is where I had this connection with the universe. I started to, unload myself into the nothingness of life. And no, I didn't have any satisfaction, real satisfaction, but I started to empty myself. Lo and behold, after some time, I realized I was lighter and lighter and lighter, and I wasn't really holding on to anything. And then there came a time where my perspective started shifting, and it wasn't a one-time aha moment, like, oh, I realized this. There were so many layers in every piece of my life, you know. I'm not, a problem to be fixed. I'm something to be looked at and appreciated. And first of all, by myself. I had to learn to, have a stiff upper lip, take my shots, and realize that, there was a lot of situations in my life I wasn't seeing right. So what I had asked for is allow my sight to be cleared, allow myself to see through myself, and what was the need within myself that I needed for to be heard in life, right? When it was only noise, it was only me like really crying for help. But no help came in the form I was looking for. They came from travelers passing by on my path that spoke some words that hit deeply within me, that I had no choice but to ponder, because they kept showing their face. When things are repeated to you over and over again, there's something in that, right? There's something in that. So my idea of going out there and being validated, I couldn't keep up with that. Like, out there seems to be so much validation going on, and I didn't feel there was a place to be for me to speak in this, because I do understand. I do understand the need for validation. I do understand the need to know there's more people in life that feel like you. But I also realize it really didn't get me anywhere needing that from other people. I needed to be okay with myself, from myself, and the reflection of the universe, of having only that to talk to, only God to, you know, share my deepest thoughts with. There seemed to be a breakthrough in my inner life constantly. It was like I was excavating all these roads within myself and my nervous system. Mm. I started to understand discernment. Like, it doesn't matter what anyone says to you, you can feel it with their energy. You become a pro at that. And I think there's many people out there that have activated that sense, that super, hero sense in them. So we've really needed to allow ourselves to, not settle into the villain in our life, the neediness of our life, but to, to really make real progress and stop resisting change in our life, no matter how hard it is, you know, and not be victimized by it, because that's when you become the villain, right? The superheroes, when you pass all that stuff and you change. You change yourself and you change the world around you. And even if it takes a long, long time, you're on the side of progress. And that's what matters. Namaste.